I'm Mellie,
I'm Chris.
and this is Beggar's Belief, home of scams, shams, hoaxes, pranks, and charlatans. True stories from real liars.
All right, there we go.
I'll cut down to that. That I can do. So, like I said, this is a sports one, but I've tried to make it a sports done in a way that it doesn't really talk about sports. Because there was a lot of times that I kind of blanked out and had to look up definitions of things. I am not a sports person.
All right, what is this one particular sport? Or are we dealing with sports en masse?
Well, let's just talk about where you're going to pretend for your beginning.
All right, for right now, I'm putting my thinking ball cap on.
Well,
And
it's the mid-90s,
All right,
and I want you to picture yourself with a mullet.
okay.
Like, full-on mullet, not modern, sexy Sappho mullet, like...
The mullets that I grew up with around my hometown.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because you're a hockey fan.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
All right.
So you're letting it flow. You're
Yeah.
letting it flow.
I feel like this story is gonna be pucked up, but are we gonna have to fight in the middle of it?
No, let's not.
All right, stick to the story.
There are fights in this, though, so
All right,
that's great.
Here we go.
So it's a time of expansion and change in hockey in the United States. So you, as a 90s hockey fan with
Did
your
they
mullet,
have Manifest Destiny in hockey?
they kind of did.
I'm here. Let's go.
Because they're starting new teams in the South and out West. Like, this is where the Mighty Ducks come into the world.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
The best sports movie of all time,
No. The actual team.
but also the best sports
Well, there
movie
you
of
go.
all
There
time.
you go. There you go. There had been a strike among players, so things are in a turmoil.
But strikes are in baseball.
Tell you in the last episode, Disney's now involved in hockey, and it led to a push for more marketing with new jerseys and new branding and the introduction of alternate jerseys. Teams were being bought and sold: the Los Angeles Kings, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the New York Islanders. There were rumors that Wayne Gretzky, literally the only hockey name I recognized,
Same.
was about to join the St. Louis Blues. And you, as a hockey fan, with all of that going on, would you know what is a scam?
Oh, absolutely not. I just want to see pucks fly and fist things.
Well, the issue was with the sale of the New York Islanders.
All right.
So let's talk about the history of the Islanders. This is not me as a sports fan. You know that.
Oh, I know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in 1972, in order to compete against the World Hockey Association, the NHL set up construction of the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum, which was located on Long Island.
All right. Islanders.
Yeah,
I'm
the
on
name
with you.
New York Islanders unveiled in February 15th of that year. Terms of the franchise included a $6 million franchise fee plus another $5 million territorial fee to the owner, Roy Bowe. In today's terms, that would be about $80 million.
Yeah, that's more than enough to build a Disneyland in Texas.
Yeah, it is. This was unprecedented amounts for a new team. So they were coming into this with big money. That set the team up for the very get-go to be on unstable financial grounds because they had to pay that off.
All right. How you want to start always. Clearly.
Oh, and a lot of money. Pretty much like every college graduate today.
Yikes. There's no difference between student loans and sports loans.
Mm-hmm. So the next year, they reserved the right to select first in draft, started over the next 5 years to pull themselves up the rankings, got several noticeable players, but they struggled in the playoffs, and because of this, their financial problems continued with the team losing money. The owner decided to sell the team to a businessman named John Pickett. Okay. At this point, they also signed a contract with a cable news television called Sports Channel, which was actually fairly lucrative. It was pretty good timing. Since 1979, the team shifted its priorities to pushing through the playoffs and made several trades of players. It worked. In 1979, they won the Stanley Cup for the first time, which started an era for the team that became known as the Dynasty.
The Dynasty on the Sports Channel.
Yes. The members kept winning the Conn Smythe Award, which was the hockey most valuable player award.
Good good on you, Conn Smythe.
I'm guessing that's the miscongeniality of play.
Yep.
Yeah. They set new records for scoring in ways that I do not understand. They set the record for a series playoff winning streak, and they managed to win the next 3 Stanley Cups. So that's 4 in a row.
You almost said Scamly Cups.
I almost did say Scamly Cups.
That's the title of this episode. Nailed it.
So it's a good time to be an Islanders player or an Islanders fan. As the 1980s started, the team had its up and down, partially because of the financial issues which just seemed to haunt them. The owner up till now had invested all of the profits from the player deal into getting new players, but he started taking actual earnings off of his investment. They had 19 consecutive playoff wins between 1980 and 1984, but slowly a lot of the players who had been on the team during the dynasty were picked up by other teams or became injured, retired. Despite winning one of the most famous games in NHL history, which was nicknamed the Easter Epic, their successes had dwindled. In 1994, the Islanders had made the playoffs for the first time since 1987. The Nassau Coliseum was aging and had fallen into disrepair. Was located in a suburban area, too, so parking, getting in and out.
You got soccer moms. You don't have a lot of hockey moms.
The owner of the Sun, John Pickett, didn't mince his words, describing it, and I quote, as a half-hour wait for the bathroom and shitty food and dirty, scummy seats.
I mean, honestly, that sounds like that's a good sporting venue.
Mm-hmm. This was despite charging one of the highest ticket prices at $42 each. Their attendance
in the 80s?
In mid-90s.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Now we're caught up. Now I've got my mullet.
Sorry. Yeah,
right,
yeah. Your mullet is on.
All right.
Attendance dropping. Popularity is tanking. The general manager by this point was a guy named Don Baloney, hired in 1992. He wasn't really popular with fans, who thought he didn't make enough changes to the team, and the changes he did make didn't make the fans happy.
They were a bunch of baloney is what they were.
Yes, Maloney baloney. He traded several fan-favorite players and hired a new head coach. Additionally, hockey as a whole is having some issues because, like I said, the NHL had a strike. But most noticeably, and this was my most fun part about this whole thing, they decided to rebrand the team.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Now, this meant that they hired basically a company to capture the essence of mid-90s Long Island in an image.
See, this is what happens when you complain that someone's not making enough change. You're not making enough change. You're not making enough change. Too much change. Too much change.
How would you capture the mid-90s in an image of mid-90s Long Island?
Mid-90s Long Island in an image?
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees. I just rebranded him as the Yankees.
Yankees on frozen water.
Yeah. Yankees on ice.
They kicked around a lot of ideas trying to figure out something that could, manifest that. And then they realized Long Island has one undeniable, universally loved treasure.
Iced tea. Long Island iced tea.
Nope. Billy Joel.
Hold on. Now, hold on. Did they call themselves the Piano Men? Because, I would go see a hockey team called the Piano Men.
I would, too.
I would get interested in sports. I'm just putting that out there. If you want to get people who are, on the edge or disinterested in athletics to any degree, name a team after a Billy Joel song.
The goalkeeper was missed it because he was too busy talking to Davey, who's still in the Navy and probably will be for life.
Now we're going to get sued.
Yeah, it's all good. Not only was Billy Joel a Long Island native, but in 1989, Joel had released a song called Downeaster Alexa. I don't know if have you heard this one?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I love it. That's actually a pretty good one. The percussion sounds like waves. It's about the plights of the Baymen and who made their lives fishing off of the shores of Long Island. It was a dying profession. The song reflects it, ending with, I was a bayman like my father was before, can't make a living as a bayman anymore. There ain't much future for a man who works the sea, and there ain't no island left for islanders like me.
There we go.
Yeah,
all right.
They said the thing. They said the thing. So it wasn't a roaring sports theme, obviously, but...
That's Billy Joel.
Yeah. Moreover, Joel was using this song to advocate for the baymen. The video was this black and white dramatic shots of grizzled fishermen in boats on rough seas and their home life and whatnot. This is their inspiration, so they started working on their new logo. It featured a bearded fisherman wearing a slicker and a hat holding a hockey stick. It was only after it was released that someone realized it was the same clothes, beard, and really close to the pose of the Gordon's fisherman.
Are you? No.
Only looking like older and more angry. It was like the Gordon's Fisherman's older, angrier brother.
We don't play with hockey sticks, we play with fish sticks.
That's actually was the taunt that they started doing. The enemy teams were taunting them by calling them fish sticks. They threw raw fish on the ice when they would take They also got a new...
Now you'll be singing a different tuna.
They also got a new mascot, a bobble-headed fisherman in a hockey
That must have been terrifying.
Mm-hmm. His name is Niles. New York Isles. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm so threatened by Niles.
He has this bushy beard, big round nose. When the team scored a goal, there was this massive light on his head that would flash red, and the scoreboard shot out smoke, and there was a foghorn that would play. They were all into this. The actor inside was actually having a rough time. The light was powered by this massive battery strapped to his back, causing him back pain, and one day it just starts leaking battery acid. Meanwhile, fans hated this mascot for some reason.
This is like the anti-Gritty.
He was regularly beaten up by his own fans.
You know what? I changed my mind. I love sports. Sports are great.
Considering how badly the team was doing, the new look was just associated basically with failure. In fact, the uniform itself was blamed on their downturns, with one trainer saying that the weight of the fabric patch was actually weighing down the players.
What?
This book, We Want Fish Sticks, is literally 220 pages about the logo and rebranding. Barely mentions the actual case we're here for. And this is me, so I was way more here for the logo than I was the actual sport.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. It's ranked as one of the worst done logos of all time, and the team asked the NHL for permission to stop using the logo as soon as they could, but it was still sort of in use when this story happens. The general manager, Don Maloney, was fired. Owner of the company had been absent. John Pickett had been absent for like 5 years. He was considering selling, and there's all these rumors that the team was about to be moved to Atlanta, Nashville, or Houston. Far away from Billy Joel.
Far away from Billy Joel.
Yeah. Then the savior of the team steps forward, John Spano. He wanted nothing more than to buy the team for $165 million. He wanted to invest big, and he wanted to keep it in New York. Newsday runs the headline. The Texan ready to buy Islanders. His promise...
A Texan. That's all right.
Mm-hmm. Texan ready to buy Islanders. The promise. The puck stays here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should have been the puck stops here.
Mm-hmm,
Honestly, he was close. I'll give him credit.
So Spano had been born in Manhattan, but moved to Ohio as a child, and eventually went to Duquesne University with a degree in business administration.
All right.
He founded the Bison Group, which was a company in Dallas, Texas, that primarily leased aircrafts and large equipment. He was married, no kids, huge hockey fan, though. Spano claimed to own 10 companies with 6,000 employees worldwide, which he had built up in just 6 years, built from the ground up. His businesses were in telecommunication, real estate development. He claimed his net worth was $230 million, with most of it coming from an inheritance from his wealthy grandfather, Angelo. His money was in trust funds, or some of it overseas in the Cayman Islands, and while he lived in Texas, he had a house on Long Island.
Okay.
And now he wanted to own a hockey team. He had a lot of support with this, including the commissioner of the NHL, Gary Bettman, who was quoted as saying that Spano was the type of person we want as an owner.
Okay.
The owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins publicly vouched for his character. In 1995, he was attempting to get 50% control of a different hockey team, the Dallas Stars. They vetted him thanks to a letter from Comerica, a financial services company located in Dallas, Texas, that vouched for his net worth and wealth. The deal with the Stars was troubled, though, as he kept pushing back the closing date, making weird demands before the whole thing just falls through. The then president of the team later realized that he should have had some suspicions about Spano.
I don't see why.
Every time they went out to eat, Spano insisted that someone else pick up the tab, and he visited his sprawling $3 million mansion, and it is completely unfurnished.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe he likes the simple things.
It's real
it's
minimalism.
The simple things. Gotta save money for the hat.
So that fell through, and Spano decided to make a bid for the Florida Panthers, but they decided not to sell. So now he has eyes on Long Island.
I like the idea that this guy is sitting in his very sparsely furnished mansion with the only objects he has is a very worn out recliner, a map of the United States on one wall with very shoddily drawn hockey team logos on them, and he's throwing darts. And he's like, well, Panthers didn't sell. I'm going to go back up to New York City.
So the home opener game in 1996, Spano sat on the owner's box and watched as the team won, wearing part of their hybrid fisherman uniform. Spano decides he's going to buy the Islanders from John Pickett for a total of $165 million, which would give him a 90% interest in the team. $8 million of this was for Pickett's stake. The remainder, $85 million, was for the cable TV contract.
All right.
This was a huge contract.
On the sports channel.
Yeah. It earned the Islanders $14 million a year. So,
wow, okay.
Yeah. The deal was publicly announced at a news conference in Nassau Coliseum on November 26th. Spano said to the press, the goal of this new ownership group will be to build the next generation of champions. The improvements in the Coliseum were promised, and Spano started meeting with fans. It was preemptive, though, all of this, because the sale hadn't actually been approved by the NHL. Yeah. But the deal was approved by all parties eventually, though, and the agreement was made with a $8 million loan from Fleet Bank from Boston up front, and the remainder of the payments to be made over the next 5 years starting in April. Old owner John Pickett closed the deal. Spano was the new owner.
All right.
Fans, press, really excited about this. Fans started out chants of his name and distributed signs that read Spano for president. The team basically started pushing their owner as the new face of the team, more than any player. Newsday, again, described him as rich Uncle Pennybags on the Monopoly board. And the Times described the millions he was spending on the team as being trivial to his portfolio, stating there's more where that came from.
I feel like we're about to not pass go.
And not collect $200, more to the point. So Spano starts making changes. He put $2.5 million into the team's payroll, forced the head coach to step down, got his name out there. He had the title of the team, and he had plans. He promised to hire the president of the fan club as the team president, promising a 6-figure career for this. 3 months later, though, Spano had only paid John Pickett a fraction of the cable rights deal. The first $1.5 million on the cable rights deal was due on April 7th, but there was no money. Spano promised Pickett the money was about to be wired out and sent him a letter from Lloyd's Bank in London as proof.
All right.
Spano was becoming a high roller during all of this, with appearances in Sports Illustrated, interviews, and cheering fans. He partied at expensive hotels, drank, hired sex workers. But he said his wife had breast cancer, so sometimes he was a little bit of a no-show. But he was really a hands-on owner, didn't hand things off to assistants. There was one problem, though. The first payment of $1.8 million had been due before the bank closed, but no money had changed hands, just this promise from Lloyd's of London. Old owner Pickett obviously wants his payments, but there were always problems when it came time. One time, Spano accidentally wired Pickett a $5,000 check instead of the $5 million he promised.
Oops, I'm so sorry. I forgot how zeros work.
Then he sent a $17 million check, and it bounced. Another time, he sent $1,700 when he was supposed to send $17 million.
Again, sorry, forgot how zeros work. It's all different in Texas.
Exactly, but he always had excuses. There was always reasons. Bankers, major issue, the IRX. He said that part of it was the issue with the South Africans, and then said it was because of the IRA bombing. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to blame apartheid on all of my financial woes.
So in total, Pickett only got $26,200 of the promised $16.8 million first payment. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman now ordered Spano to remove himself from operations and not to use team assets, obviously. Spano had only been in control for 4 months. The board of directors met in June of 1997, and Spano wasn't there. Instead, it was 2 of Pickett's men. Spano was laying low, although he was quoted as saying, "Am I still the owner of the Islanders?"
Probably not. If you have to ask, I would say no.
You know,
I'm not big into sports, but
if I have to ask myself that question, there's an issue. So on July 9th, Newsday exposed Spano as a total fraud, asking on tips from inside the Islanders. It came up with discrepancies from what Spano had claimed, and they came up with details about his network and the lawsuits pending against him. Oh, and his $85,000 in back taxes. So Spano had said he was worth $230 million. He was actually worth closer to $1.5 million. He claimed to have about 6,000 employees. He had 22. He lied about where he graduated high school, having gone to a parochial school, and the inherited wealth just didn't exist. Grandfather Angelo was just a normal guy. There was no private jet, no home in the Hamptons. He worked enough in business to have been invited to some events where he met real high rollers, and by association, everybody assumed he was one himself. Oh, and his wife never had breast cancer. And he was very hands-on, because he couldn't afford the assistants that were naked hands-off.
My God.
So, his plan was to get money from other investors to pay the bill he owed Pickett. He tried to get money from a Long Island hotel owner and some contractors who promised contracts to build a new arena, but the money didn't come through and his scheme fell apart very quickly. It turns out that the NHL had only spent $525 to check Spano's background.
What?
Yeah. It basically, you could go into your average fast food restaurant and have more of a background check than they did on this guy.
I was doing the wrong things in the 90s.
Spano said, I was on a phone call with myself, my attorney in Dallas, and someone from the league. He talked to my attorney to verify my net worth was worth X, and because my attorney based on telling me it was worth X, I said, yeah, I was shitting my pants because if it blew up, it would have all fallen apart. That was the extent of their due diligence. They didn't ask anything after that. Spano was also quoted as saying, I set it up so that other people couldn't talk to other people or they didn't have enough knowledge to put two and two together. The guy at the bank knew one thing, the guy at the NHL knew the other, my attorney knew something else. If they would have all gotten together, they would have realized something wasn't right. So, Spano and Pickett mediated a deal between them. Spano gave them all control of the Islanders back to Pickett. In exchange, Pickett agreed to not sue him. But federal investigators showed that Spano had forged many documents used to convince the Welf. Remember the bounce check?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, we're $17 million. Pickett had let it go because of Comerica sent a letter saying he had the funds to cover it, which was signed by an executive, except that the letter was written in two different fonts and the executive had never seen it. The postal inspectors got involved. I swear, every time they get involved, it's a good story.
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah. Showed that the fax machine mark at the top matched the mark that was left by Spano's own fax machine. The mark ended up being a telltale signature on other forged document, including one that showed Spano owed the treasury bills worth $27 million. Fleet Bank was actually involved, but they had based their decision on a letter from Comerica Vice President that said Spano was worth over $100 million, and he had walked in with that as a forged document and walked out with an $80 million loan. Spano said it was easier than getting a car loan. The loan officer who approved that loan was forced to resign for obvious reasons.
Whoops. What do you mean?
July 23rd, federal prosecutors charged Spano for multiple counts of bank fraud, wire fraud, and forgery. July 14th, federal prosecutor in Fort Worth indicted him with additional charges of bank and wire fraud in the amount of $5.1 million. Spano, meanwhile, had run away to the Cayman Islands.
Oh, that's where the rest of his money's at. Of course he'd run away there.
But he was convinced to return to the USA to take a plea deal. I love people who just run away.
Yeah. Run away.
On August 8th, he pled guilty to the charges in both Long Island and Texas and admitted to forging numerous documents. However, the other half of the plea bill was for him to plead guilty to the bank charges in Boston for the Fleet Bank situation. For some reason, he tried to change this plea. His lawyers had enough of this and just quit the case, saying that they thought they weren't going to get paid.
That's usually a bad sign. If your lawyer's like, I'm out.
Yeah. So finally he pled guilty to bank fraud in July of 1998. He was out on bond at this point, not doing great in his personal life. His wife had left him and sold the house. So he rented a condo. The struggle to pay rent is real, but he solved it by doing things like paying with an expired credit card and over 10 grand worth of bad checks. He lost his bail because of that and was arrested. In January 28, 2000, he was sentenced 71 months in federal prison and ordered to pay $11.9 million to his victims. On June 2004, he was released on 5 years supervision and moved to Cleveland and pretty much immediately started defrauding companies by promising to get loans for them.
Better to do that than Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. And then just pocketing money, He was caught quickly and was sentenced again in February of 2005. On April of 2009, he was released again and went on to becoming an upstanding member of the community. Just kidding. He was hired.
You almost had me there.
Yeah, I know. He was hired at a company that rents linens to medical facilities, starting as a driver and working his way up to sales. And the second he had any power whatsoever, he just started skimming money. He was sentenced to prison again in 2015. Spano is currently incarcerated in Grafton's Correctional Institution and is scheduled to be released November 2024. So coming on up.
All right, coming up.
Can't wait to see what he gets himself into this time.
I love that, like, he's like, driving linens. Yeah, that's money laundering. Yeah. You know what he did? You know where his mistake was? He pressed his puck. Money laundering.
Money laundering was funny. Pressed his puck was a bit far. Oh. So, about the whole thing with the Islanders, he was quoted as saying, "It was everything I hoped it would be, and it was actually more. Consequences weren't tremendous, but it was a fulfillment of a dream, even if it was for a short period of time. I mean, for 4 months, I owned the New York Islanders."
I mean, to be fair, to his credit, he did accomplish that. He owned the New York Islanders for 4 months.
And then he was driving linens and dreaming big.
Now he's incarcerated again.
The whole thing was covered in the ESPN documentary Big Shot, but it wasn't the NHL's only issue with fraudsters in this era. The head of the National Hockey Association Players Association was found to have been skimming off the pensions fund. Then John Riggis purchased the Buffalo Sabres in 1997, but was arrested for lot fraud in 2002. Then a 30% share of the Nashville Predators were sold in 2007 to someone who had fraudulently obtained the money and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. But, the Islanders are doing good.
What? This is hockey.
In 2014, they moved into the Barclays Center and split times with the old Coliseums. They made the 2016 playoffs. In 2021, the UBS Arena was opened in the Belmont Park. It seats 17,200 fans and is nicknamed The Stable. Oh, and 10 former members were inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame over the years. So, yeah, things are good in the Downeastern Alexa.
So much just happened. So much just happened. I went to a hockey game and a scam broke out. That's usually not how that goes. This is... Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, that's their mascot. If you flip through it, has the logo better in it. Yeah. That is the Gordon Fisherman.
That is just the Gordon Fisherman. I kind of want fish sticks now.
So the fact that this is all going on while they're like skating around with the Gordon Fisherman.
The poor human being that had to wear this mascot outfit.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of quotes in this book about how embarrassed they were, and everyone passes the buck. It's amazing. When something this bad happens, like, no one actually had anything to do it. It's like one of my favorite documentaries is on the making of The Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Where the second one, like, everybody claims that they had nothing to do with.
Yes. Look at...
I love when bad decisions are made and no one has anything to do with it.
That logo is horrendous. Like, imagine being the person who designed that. And that's, like, do you keep that on, like, your CV? Or do you just, like, say, I wasn't working from this time period to this time period? I was unemployed.
I designed a logo so horrendous that it actually, like, manifested a fraudulent owner.
For 4 months.
For 4 months.
For 4 months. For 4 months, my life had meaning. That is that's yikes. That yikes.
This is also why the interlibrary loan can't figure out what the heck I'm doing.
I mean, you have varied taste,
yes,
is what I will say. And all of a sudden you sneak sports into it, and not just any sports.
But
the
hockey...
mid-90s New York Islanders.
Yes.
Yikes. Like, I feel like if I went to a game and that helmet went off, I'd get a seizure. Like, and then the horns go. Talk about being overstimulated. It's like, I don't even want my fish sticks anymore. Well, I guess I'm going to start watching hockey now.
I mean, if you want to.
But I want to be there when the next scam happens. I want to be like, I was there.
Look, if you learn nothing else from this podcast, scams happen everywhere.
Yeah, I know. But how many happen with mascots that hideous?
Now I'm going to have to find another hideous mascot scam.
Yes, do it.
Okay, now this is my new goal.
I want an episode on mascots.
Hideous.
Like, I want mascot hoaxes and scams.
Mascot scams. Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Now that you've heard about these horrendous sports things that I had to listen to, and unfortunately I believe these, you can find us on most audio platforms as Beggars Belief. If you have any comments or questions, you can email us at beggarsbeliefpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram at Beggars Belief Podcast. Remember, at least from this side of the microphone, don't believe everything you hear.